Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/ProRevenge. In today's episode, nitpick my perfectly acceptable work? Okay. Change our expenditure accounts? The food bank will have a feast. It's usually not a good idea to piss off the person who keeps the department ahead of schedule. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Nitpick my perfectly acceptable work? Okay. I work as a criminal investigator within a federal agency, and my job is pretty much what it seems like. I investigate crimes within the jurisdiction of the agency I work at. It's not as glamorous as it seems and involves a ton of paperwork. Most of the time I have to handle evidence and log them, take notes, make connections, and send copies of them, if they are scannable, to where they need to go. The thing with evidence is that in order for it to be admissible in court, we have to know everywhere it has ever been, who has been in contact with, and what has been done to it. How we track it is we sign it out, and it records the time we take it and the time it is returned. If it is in your possession, it must stay in your possession at all times, and it cannot leave your sight. Usually notes look something like this. Evidence box, number, taken out by, name, at, date, time, for the purpose of, reason. Evidence C is taken out of the box for, admin action, and, details. Evidence D is taken out of the box to be scanned to, other agency for, reason. You get the picture. There has to be a valid reason for everything, and there must be a trail, or else who knows what has happened to it. My notes include more than there needs to be because I'm super paranoid about not having enough detail. Also, it's worth noting that it is the manager's job to look over the evidence and sign off on every line to make sure it is valid. Recently there has been a change in management as my current manager received a promotion to a much better role. A guy, let's call him Kevin, from a different team became our acting manager until someone else was appointed to the role. Now there are 3 people who have a shot at this promotion, me, another guy from my team, and Kevin. Kevin didn't like that he had competition and began making my life hell. From calling me out in front of everyone because I came back from my break a minute late because there was a queue in the washroom to deliberately making it more difficult to do my job by taking my criminal investigations admin assistant off my case because she was needed elsewhere. I later asked what she was assigned to and she said it was general admin, which we have a person for. The last straw was when he pulled me into his office and chastised me about how my notes compromised a criminal case because there wasn't enough detail. This has never been an issue before, and I was confused. I needed to include everything I do with the evidence. Everything? I said. Every single thing you do, he smugly replied. Yes, sir. Now, anything that could compromise a case is sent up the chain and is reported to HR and any other department that might help fix the situation. I knew this and I knew what he was going to tell me to do. Writing out all those details is enough work, and he was going to make it worse. I asked for a copy of the letter he sent to HR, which he happily handed over, and I went on my way. The letter was to have my back in case he decided to write me up for what I was about to do. It took a few days before I needed to log out evidence again, but boy, was I excited. Usually, the most tedious job became the one I was looking forward to the most. You want detail, Kevin? I'll give you detail. My notes look like this. Evidence box 001 taken off of shelf with both hands out by Bebo 4144 at date/hour/minute/second for the purpose of reason 1, reason 2, reason 3. Reason 14. Evidence box 001 was placed on the table beside the scanner with the label facing the scanner. Evidence box 001 is scanned at date/hour/minute/second. Evidence box 001 was picked up by both hands, and Bebo 4144 walked through the left door of the double doors. Bebo 4144 took a right turn to the end of the office, and then another right to cubicle 9-033. Evidence box 001 was placed at the right innermost corner of the desk at date/hour/minute/second. The lid of evidence box 001 was taken off by both hands and placed on the floor under the desk, leaning against the cubicle wall. Bebo 4144 lifts evidence F off of evidence B with her right hand. Bebo 4144's ring on her right middle finger touches the outside of the evidence F bag. Bebo 4144 places it in the top right corner of the box at date/hour/minute/second. Bebo4144 looks at the evidence box to determine which evidence she is going to examine. Bebo4144 sits down. Bebo4144 moves her mouse to wake her computer up. And so on. My notes, which are usually around 5 pages, were 18 pages long, and he had to sign off on every single line. I reverted back to my old way of note-taking and Kevin never complained again. Oh, and he didn't get the job. The other guy from my team did, and he's doing great. Change our expenditure accounts? The food bank will have a feast. This happened about 10 years ago, when I worked for a company doing community nursing. We were provided with company cars and a prepaid card for expenditure, fuel and food. The card had a limit of €400 per week, the card resetting to the 400 limit every Monday morning. Despite the €400 limit, the usual amount any of us spent each week was around €150 to €200, depending on travel. The usual was to get a full tank once a week, which was around €55 to €60, and the rest was coffee and lunch. Enter Chad. He was the financial officer, and had some pretty unique ideas about changing the finances of the company. One of the ideas he instituted was a change to our prepaid cards. He dropped the limit to €50 a day, with the card resetting every day. As you can understand, this was a problem, especially if you consider that a full tank costed €55 minimum. If you used the card for fuel, then the rest was paid out of pocket. We couldn't be reimbursed for the money because you have a company card, learn to use it more efficiently. Initially, most coworkers were spending €30 on fuel and refuel 2 or 3 times a week. But not me. While my malicious compliance tendencies were natural, during my Navy service were honed to perfection by a couple of Master Chiefs. So, enter malicious compliance. I decided to spend each day €20 for fuel, some days less, pay for my own coffee out of pocket, and spend the rest at lunch. I used to patron a grill and barbecue place that had a catering side. They also volunteered for a local food bank and kitchen. The owner had grew up dirt poor and liked to help. A lot of clients would buy something and add a little extra to an open tab for the food bank. Then, the catering will go each Sunday and provide food for the homeless and the poor using the tab and funds from the owner. So I went there every day, got something to eat and rested the amount until €50 would go to the tab. I started rising at least €90 a week for the food bank. I hit the limit every day, costing the company €250 a week from $150. Chad was furious. He was trying to save money and I was costing him more. He asked me to explain my expenses. Food and fuel. He asked for receipts. I provided them, the receipt said food, nothing else. He finally said I should eat cheaper. I told him the company couldn't force not to eat whatever I wanted. After that meeting, a couple of coworkers saw me coming out smiling and inquired about it. I explained what I was doing. The smiles on their faces. Soon afterwards, 6 nurses spent all their expenses the same way. The aftermath. This went on for 2 months. Chad was livid because now he was losing even more money. The solution came unexpectedly. Unbeknownst to all of us, the owner of the company was a major contributor to the food bank. He knew about the restaurant helping out and had seen the richer buffets. He asked the owner of the restaurant about, and he said a few nurses had started coming, raising the tab, at that point €600 minimum. The owner put 2 and 2 together. I was called in for a meeting with the owner. I was anxious because I didn't know what it was about. When I got there, Chad was there also. During the meeting, Chad explained how he was losing money, but he couldn't do anything about it. I explained what our grievance was and how we took advantage of it. Chad replied we shouldn't game the system for something so stupid as a food bank. The owner stopped the meeting right there. He reinstated the old system for expenditure. He reprimanded both of us for the whole mess, me a bit less, and informed me that if I make a donation for the food bank to notify him, and he will match it. The final result was getting our old system back, which we didn't abuse, a weekly donation to the food bank, and a major Easter Sunday barbecue for the food bank sponsored by the company. Chad lasted only another 3 months because his penny-saving ways dropped the quality of care we could provide. I stayed with the company until it was sold to new owners who were more like Chad. But that's a story for another subreddit. It's usually not a good idea to piss off the person who keeps the department ahead of schedule. So I work for a grocery store as a personal shopper for their in-house grocery pickup and delivery service. Not to toot my own horn, but I am uncontestedly the fastest and best employee in the entire day shift. For context, I can pick around 100 to 120 unique items per hour while the average person does around 60, which is the expected minimum. It's safe to say that this department relies on me quite heavily. To the point where the department manager has to find 2 people to replace me when I can't come to a shift. This is mainly because I find the job pretty boring, so I throw in an AirPod and listen to music. I'm fast mainly because it makes me feel like I'm actually doing something while I'm here. It's also important to note that there's no incentive for me to perform more than anyone else. I don't get paid more, there's no recognition, I just do it because it keeps me busy. Now one of the assistant store managers doesn't like me. I can't figure out the reason, but she doesn't. Either way, she decided today that it would now be a rule that you couldn't listen to music while picking groceries as they didn't know what you were listening to, nothing in relation to not being able to hear customers, which I could anyways. Now I asked others about this tile and they hadn't been told anything and were still wearing earbuds and listening to music. It's important for us to have at least a 1-hour buffer. It allows us to call customers to review changes made to their order and then adjust anything as per their request. This is how we ensure their satisfaction. Today it was really busy, we could barely keep that buffer with me at full productivity, which I was until being told no more music. That's when things began to nosedive, and fast. Within half an hour we had lost half of our buffer, and by the time I was done my pick, we had completely lost it. This ASM is now being chewed out by the GM because we're behind, and that's a serious issue. She then looks at the chart that shows our pick rates and asks him where I am, explaining that we shouldn't be behind with me there. All the while I'm sitting there taking my sweet ass time writing bin tags until she confronts me as to why I'm picking so slowly. I explained that I had no obligation to go above and beyond, and that because there was a clear double standard being held, I didn't see a reason to perform at a higher level than the rest of the department. After the cogs in her head finally stopped turning, she realized that it is probably best if she allows me to listen to my music and sends me on my way. Within 2 hours I've created us an hour buffer again. Needless to say, she learned an important lesson in cause and effect today that I doubt she'll be forgetting soon. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.